If you open up any English book, newspaper, or even just a website right now, exactly half the words you're looking at, I mean, literally 50%, are drawn from this incredibly small list of just 100 specific words.
Yeah, it's a crazy statistic.
Right. And if you go just a little bit further and master about, say, 3,000 specific words, you suddenly unlock 90% of all everyday conversations.
It's huge. I mean, it completely shatters that whole myth that fluency requires memorizing like tens of thousands of obscure terms. The English language isn't this insurmountable wall. It's actually a very specific, highly efficient code.
And today, we are going to crack that code together. So, welcome to the Dale English Class channel. We are absolutely thrilled to have you here. And hey, whether you're listening on your commute or at the gym or studying at home, please take a quick second to interact, like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support is basically what keeps these language insights coming.
Absolutely. And, as your resident language experts, our mission today isn't to just hand you a boring vocabulary list.
No, definitely not.
We're going to decode the actual DNA of English. We'll explore the absolute most important, highly used words, and then figure out how native speakers actually combine them.
Right, which is where it gets tricky.
Exactly. And then we'll see how history physically split the language across an ocean, and finally, look at how the internet is evolving English at lightning speed today.
I love it. So let's start right at the bedrock. When you say 100 words make up 50% of everything written in English, my mind immediately tries to guess what those words are. Like, are they massive, complex ideas?
Not at all. They're actually tiny function words.
Okay, like what?
Words like the, of, to, and a.
Wow.
Yeah, they don't really mean much on their own, right? But they are the architectural framework holding everything else together. They're the glue.
So I'm picturing like an empty house. Those function words are the wooden frame and the nails.
That's a great way to think about it.
But you can't live in just a frame, right? You need furniture. So when we move past that grammar glue, what do the actual content words, the nouns and verbs, actually tell us?
Well, this is where the math of language gets genuinely beautiful, I think. Because if you learn the top 2,500 to 3,000 words, you cover 90% of daily English.
90%? That's wild.
Yeah. That leaves only 10% to be figured out through context.
Let me just stop you right there for a second, because this feels like a massive realization. You're saying learners around the world are agonizing over huge, complex vocabulary lists, right? Downloading flashcard apps to learn words like, I don't know, ubiquitous or cacophony, when they really only need 3,000 core words to survive?
Yes.
That feels like trying to build a rocket ship when you just need a bicycle to get to work.
It is exactly like that. I mean, learners often waste so much energy on the fringes of the language instead of the core. And if you look at the most common nouns in English, they reveal exactly what human beings actually care about.
Okay, I'm curious. What are they?
The top nouns are time, year, people, way, day, man, thing, woman, life, and child.
Wow. Just look at that list. Time, year, day. We are completely obsessed with measuring our existence.
We really are.
And the rest, people, man, woman, child, it's all about our relationships. So the mathematical foundation of English vocabulary isn't really about business or science or philosophy. It's literally just about time and each other.
Right, exactly. If you master these specific nouns, you're basically mastering the core subjects of the human experience. And the verbs, they reflect the exact same fundamental reality.
What are the verbs?
Well, the most common verbs aren't complicated actions. They're words like ask, be, become, begin, call, can, and come. They just represent the most basic human interactions and, states of existence.
This is starting to remind me of a painter's palette.
Yeah.
You don't need a million customized shades of paint to create a masterpiece. You just need the primary colors, red, blue, and yellow, and you mix them.
Yeah, that's a perfect analogy.
So these common nouns and verbs are our primary colors.
They are. And to finish that palette, you just need adjectives. The most essential adjectives in English fall onto a very clear spectrum of human emotion and behavior.
Like good and bad.
Pretty much. You have the positive adjectives we use to describe people, words like brave, calm, cheerful, and compassionate, and then the negative ones that define our conflicts, like aggressive, cowardly, cruel, and defiant.
So if you have your core nouns about time and people, your basic action verbs, and this spectrum of light and dark adjectives, you essentially have all the paint you need to describe almost any real-world situation.
You do. But having the paint is really only the first step. The place where most language learners hit a wall is when they realize that native speakers don't just smear pure red or pure blue on the canvas.
Right, they mix them.
Exactly. Native speakers take these simple foundational words and combine them to create totally different meanings. And this brings us to what might be the most crucial and honestly frustrating part of sounding natural.
Phrasal verbs.
Phrasal verbs.
Let's translate that grammar term into everyday logic for a second, because phrasal verb sounds incredibly intimidating to a lot of people.
It really does.
It's basically taking a standard action word, adding a direction or a preposition to it, and boom, it means something entirely new. Like taking the word turn and adding off to get turn off, meaning to power down a device. Or look after a friend, meaning to take care of them.
Right, or run out of, which means to completely deplete your supply of something. And call off, meaning to cancel an event.
See, okay, I have to push back here on behalf of every learner listening.
Yeah.
This drives people crazy.
I know.
Why say call off? Why not just use the perfectly good single word cancel? Cancel is actually shorter, it's clearer. It honestly feels like native speakers are deliberately creating a secret club code just to confuse people.
I completely understand the frustration, I really do, but I promise it's not a conspiracy. It actually comes down to the deep psychology of tone and a little bit of history. English actually has a split personality.
Wait, what do you mean by a split personality?
Well, think back to the year 1066, the Norman Conquest.
Okay, history lesson.
Yeah, so French-speaking royalty took over England, and because of that, words with Latin or French roots, words like cancel, deplete, or suggest, became the language of the government, the law, and the elite.
Nice.
But the common people, they kept speaking their older Germanic language.
Oh, wow. So the Latin words sound formal because they used to literally be the language of the ruling class.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Today, Latin-based words still sound very formal, professional, or academic, but phrasal verbs, they mostly come from those older, earthy Germanic roots.
Interesting.
So they add a casual, relaxed, intimate tone to your speech. Saying, I depleted my milk supply, sounds like a factory manager giving a corporate report.
Yeah, it sounds ridiculous in a kitchen.
Right. Saying, I ran out of milk sounds like you're actually chatting with a friend.
That is a massive light bulb moment for me.
Yeah.
It's not just about learning vocabulary. It's about matching the casual rhythm of everyday life.
You.
We don't want to sound like corporate robots in our living rooms.
Precisely. And that desire for a casual rhythm extends to everyday conversational phrases, too. Native speakers rely on simple words mixed together for almost everything.
Right, like when you greet someone, you don't ask, how are you functioning? You say, how's it going?
Exactly. Or saying long time no see
Yeah.
when you run into an old friend. And the situational vocabulary is exactly the same. We don't say the daily period of high vehicle volume.
No, we just say rush hour.
Yeah. And when you're in a restaurant, you don't say, I demand the soup. You use those foundational words and say, I'll have the tomato soup to start.
Or talking about the weather with phrases like cold front or wind chill. Knowing these natural combinations, knowing how to mix the primary colors, is what takes you from sounding like a textbook to sounding like a local.
Absolutely.
Okay, but this naturally leads to a really interesting problem. We've established the natural, casual rhythm of English. But what happens when the people speaking that language physically pack up, get on ships, and move thousands of miles away?
Well, the rhythm breaks. Or rather, it evolves in isolation. And that brings us to the massive geographic divide between British English and American English.
I've always been super curious about this. Did they just drift apart naturally over hundreds of years like biological evolution? Or was it more intentional?
It was honestly a mix of both. So the English colonists who settled in North America in the 17th century were isolated by a massive ocean.
Obviously.
Ironically, because they were cut off from London, American English actually preserved some older English pronunciations that the British eventually stopped using.
Wait, really? So Americans sound more like old Brits than modern Brits do?
In some ways, yes. Furthermore, Americans were interacting with Native American languages, Spanish and Dutch, absorbing all these new words. But the real conscious shift happened later thanks to Noah Webster.
Noah Webster, like the dictionary guy. Was he actively trying to change the language?
Absolutely he was. Webster viewed language as a powerful tool of political independence. After the American Revolution, he wanted to deliberately sever cultural ties with Britain. He standardized American spelling specifically to make it simpler and distinctly un-British. He is the reason Americans dropped the U in words like color and flipped the RE to ER in words like center.
That's wild. It wasn't just spelling reform, it was an act of linguistic rebellion.
Exactly.
And today, that rebellion leaves learners dealing with what feels like two totally different operating systems for the same smartphone. I mean, if you use the UK OS, you rent a flat and walk on the pavement. But if you use the US OS, you rent an apartment and walk on the sidewalk.
Right. And if you drive a large vehicle carrying goods, you're driving a lorry in Britain, but a truck in America. When you need a break from work, you go on holiday in the UK, but you take a vacation in the US.
But the craziest differences are always with food. Like if you want a sweet baked treat, a British biscuit is an American cookie.
Oh, the food gets so confusing.
And the potato situation is a total minefield. British chips are American fries, the hot, thick-cut fried potatoes. But American chips, like the thin, crispy snacks in a bag, are called crisps in Britain.
You definitely have to be careful when ordering lunch, but you have to be even more careful with what linguists call false friends.
False friends.
Yeah, these are words that exist in both varieties of English, but mean totally different things. Mixing these up won't just get you the wrong food, it could cause massive embarrassment.
Oh, the danger zone.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the word pants. In British English, pants strictly means your underwear.
Yes, very important distinction.
Right, but in American English, pants means your trousers. So complimenting a British colleague by saying, "Wow, I really love your pants," is basically a fast track to a meeting with human resources.
Yeah, definitely do not do that. Another classic trap is the word rubber. In British English, a rubber is simply an eraser that you use for a pencil.
Right.
But in American English, rubber is a very common slang term for a condom. So if you're sitting in an American university classroom and you ask the person next to you if you can borrow their rubber,
Oh no, you're going to stop the room dead.
completely dead.
And then there's public school, which is so confusing. In Britain, a public school is actually an elite, highly expensive private school. But in America, a public school is a free, government-funded school open to everyone.
Yeah, the British term dates back to when those elite schools were formed. They were public because anyone who could afford the massive fees could attend, regardless of their religious affiliation, unlike the private religious schools. But yes, today, the meaning across the ocean is entirely reversed.
Honestly, if I'm a learner right now, I'm probably panicking a little bit. Do I have to choose a side? Like if I say flat and then elevator in the same sentence, am I going to short-circuit the native speaker I'm talking to?
You won't short-circuit anyone, don't worry. But if we're aiming for fluency, consistency is key. You should generally choose one system, either British or American, for your primary output.
Output meaning speaking and writing.
Exactly. Mixing them in the same essay or speech can look a bit messy. However, you must be flexible with your input. You really need to understand both for your listening and reading because the global internet blends them together constantly.
Well, speaking of the internet blending things, let's talk about the absolute newest software update to the English language. We just saw how an ocean physically split the language, but today, algorithms and whole generations are evolving it at a terrifying speed.
It really is unprecedented. Words are born in group chats, they go viral on TikTok, and they become everyday conversation long before a dictionary editor even knows they exist.
Yeah, it's so fast.
If you don't understand the internet slang of 2026, you're missing out on an entire layer of modern culture and humor.
So let's decode the cutting ouch. Let's look at how younger native speakers are actually communicating right now. For example, I've been seeing the phrase pop-off everywhere.
Pop-off is a great starting point. This isn't just about doing well, it's about having a main character moment.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, it's used to hype someone up when they exceed expectations or confidently stand up for themselves. If your friend gives an incredible presentation at work that blows everyone away, you'd tell them, "You really popped off today."
I love the energy of that. I've also heard the word based used a lot as a compliment. Is that similar? Like being grounded?
It's actually one of the highest compliments you can receive online right now. To be based means to be completely authentic, confident, and unapologetically yourself, regardless of social pressure or what's considered cringe.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so if someone wears a ridiculous outfit just because it makes them happy without caring about the stares, that is based behavior.
Okay, those are very positive.
Yeah.
But what about when things go horribly wrong? I keep seeing the phrase canon event used when people are struggling. That sounds like something from a comic book, not a real conversation.
Well, it is borrowed from comic books. In comic book lore, a canon event is a tragic or chaotic moment that is absolutely essential to a hero's origin story like Batman falling into the cave.
Right, right.
So on the internet today, people use it to describe an unavoidable, painful life lesson that you just have to go through to build character. If you see your younger sibling about to make a terrible dating choice, but you know they have to learn the hard way, you might say, I can't interfere, it's a canon event.
That's actually a deeply profound way to reframe a mistake. It gives your pain a purpose in your personal plotline. But I have to ask about a couple of others that feel a bit colder, like 404 coded and aura farming.
Ah,
I
yeah.
have to be honest, 404 coded sounds like we're treating human beings like broken software.
Well, 404 coded is a direct play on the 404 not found web browser error. It describes someone who is completely clueless, disorganized, or mentally absent.
Okay, that makes sense. And aura farming.
So aura is basically your cool vibe.
Yeah.
So aura farming is when someone deliberately and performatively tries to curate their aesthetic online to look cool, like posing with a thick philosophy book they aren't actually reading just to gain aura points.
And then there are words like chopped and unk too, right?
Oh, definitely. Chopped is basically when something just doesn't live up to expectations. If it's not giving the right vibe, it's chopped.
And unk.
Unk is short for uncle. It's teasingly calling someone older or just pointing out that they're behind the times.
I feel like I'm an unk right now just learning these. But I'm seeing a real pattern here. 404 coded, aura farming, crashing out when we get too tired. Are we just starting to talk to each other the way we talk to computers and video games? Have we lost the human element?
It's very easy to assume that. But if you look at the history of linguistics, humans have always used their most advanced daily tools as metaphors for their minds.
Oh, really?
Yeah. During the Industrial Revolution, we used steam engine metaphors. We still say things like, I need to blow off steam, or I'm running out of steam.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
Today, our shared environment is digital. We live in software and games, so we naturally use digital error codes and gaming terms to describe our own emotional states. It's not losing our humanity, it's literally just updating the vocabulary we use to describe it.
That is a brilliant point. The tool changes, but the human experience underneath those primary colors we talked about at the very beginning stays exactly the same.
Exactly.
And speaking of a concept that perfectly captures that human experience, let's look at one final slang term for 2026. Rich in life. I love this one because it completely subverts the usual internet obsession with money and hustle culture.
Yes. Rich in life is a total pushback against all of that. It describes a wealth you can actually feel, not just count. It's having great friends, prioritizing your mental health, pursuing curiosity, and just finding joy in the day-to-day moments.
It means you might not have a massive bank account, but your life is full and vibrant.
Beautifully put.
What an incredible place to bring this journey full circle. I mean, we started today with the absolute foundational words of English, the primary colors focusing on time and people.
We then explored how native speakers combine those words into phrasal verbs, choosing the casual Germanic rhythm of turn off and call off over formal Latin words.
We crossed the Atlantic Ocean to see how an act of political rebellion split the vocabulary into two different systems, navigating the very dangerous false friends of British and American English.
And finally, we saw how English is currently being reinvented at lightning speed, turning computer errors and comic book tropes into emotional slang.
It has been an absolute masterclass. Before we go, I want to give a massive thank you to you, our listener. A quick reminder, please interact, like, comment, share, and subscribe to the Dale English Class channel. Your support is everything, and it helps us continue guiding your journey to fluency.
And as we leave you today, I want to offer a final thought to ponder. We just discussed how rapidly language is evolving online right now. If it is changing this incredibly fast today, what will the top 300 words of English look like in the year 2100?
Good question.
Will we still be speaking traditional English, or will we essentially be speaking internet?
That is a wild thought. Will the word "the" be replaced by some digital code? We will just have to wait and see. Keep practicing your primary colors, keep listening, and stay curious. Because remember, the English language is not an impossible mountain to climb. It is just a code, and you are well on your way to cracking it.